Almighty God, we pray for your blessing upon this council, help and prosper its work for the advancement and benefits of its people, so that peace and happiness, unity and justice may be established among us all. Amen. Manningham Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners of lands and waterways now known as Manningham. Council pays respect to elders past, present and emerging, and values the ongoing contribution to enrich and appreciate the cultural heritage of Manningham. Council acknowledges and respects Australia's First Peoples as traditional owners of lands and waterways across country and encourages reconciliation between all. Manningham Council also values the contribution made to Manningham over the many years by people of diverse backgrounds and cultures. I welcome all members of the public who have joined us in person, thank you, and also online to observe tonight's proceedings. Welcome. I would like to advise that tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded. All care will be taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event your voice and or image is broadcast by Council. Council meetings are conducted in accordance with our governance rules. I will introduce each item of business as listed on the agenda, calling it by number and by reading the title. I will then call for a mover and a seconder of a motion on the item before opening any debate. Only councillors are able to join the debate on an item. Councillors may adopt the officer's recommendation in the report or propose amendments and supplementary motions. I would like to draw your attention to item 7 on tonight's agenda, public question time, which provides people with an opportunity to ask questions of the council. Council has allocated 30 minutes for public question time at tonight's meeting, and the process is set out in our governance rules. Questions must be received prior to the start of the meeting to be asked. Where we receive advance notice of a question in accordance with our governance rules by 5 p.m. yesterday, we will provide a verbal response to the question at our meeting. Questions we receive today up to 7 p.m. may be taken on notice if we don't have the information on hand to provide a meaningful response. If this happens, you'll be provided with a written response to your question within 10 working days from today. I will deal with a maximum of 2 questions per person and 2 questions on any one issue. You'll be asked to come forward to the lectern to ask your question, where you will have an opportunity to provide a 2-minute introductory statement before asking your question. To ensure the efficient conduct of our meeting and maximum participation during question time, all questions and answers shall be as brief as possible and no discussion is permitted on any question. Councillors and the gallery are reminded that question time is to be conducted in a respectful manner and disorderly conduct will be managed in accordance with our governance rules. So I move on to item number 2, apologies and requests for leave of absence. We have no apologies. Councillors, are there any requests for leave of absence? No, thank you. Item number 3, prior notification of conflict of interest. So no prior notice of conflict of interest have been received. Would anyone like to give notice of a conflict of interest?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to declare a material conflict of interest in confidential item 17.3 on the agenda this evening.
Thank you, CEO, and that's noted. Item number 4, confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen.
Thank you, Chair. I move that the minutes of the council meeting held on 28 February 2023 be confirmed.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Carly Lang. All those in favour? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item number 5, presentations. So I have 2 presentations that I'd like to make to the public and to councillors. So councillors, today we had a wonderful ceremony upstairs for a number of staff who have recently celebrated significant milestones in their years here at Manningham. So I would like to acknowledge the following council officers and thank them for their service. For 20 years of service, I'm just going to put my glasses on, we have Leonie Archer from the procurement team, Peter Gunas, City Compliance team, Philip Harberts, Environmental Health team, Leslie Kirkham, Aged and Disability Service team, Manfei Louis, Aged and Disability Services team, Werner Martin, City Infrastructure team, Nina Reid, Aged and Disability Services team, and Lucy Trifoletti, Finance Services team. 25 years of service, we have Glenda Ruggieri, Statutory Planning team, and she would have seen a lot in 25 years of planning in Manningham. 30 years of service, Andrew Graydon, Parks team, and 35 years of service, Sana Sufi, City Compliance, and Kerry Kennelly, Aged and Disability Services team. I would like to thank all staff for their contribution, dedication and hard work during their time at Council, and congratulations on your outstanding efforts. So for my second presentation, councillors, 16th of March, I attended the Eastern Region Victoria Police Honours and Awards ceremony. It was a tremendous ceremony honouring and awarding police officers from across the Eastern Region. But, councillors, I do want to acknowledge the following award recipients that have served in Manningham or currently serve in Manningham. So we have Senior Constables Cosma and Humphrey, who received a citation for exceptional performance and professionalism displayed in protecting and preserving the life of a community member. Senior Constable Lewis, who received a citation for exceptional performance and was commended for their selfless and diligent devotion to duty in preserving the life of a community member. Senior Constable Crocker and Acting Sergeant Ratton, who received a regional commendation for their work in regards to the Eastern Freeway police collision. Senior Constable Jealous, who received a letter of acknowledgement for their work in regards to the Eastern Freeway police collision. And Inspector Craig Pearson, who received a regional commendation for their work in regards to the Eastern Freeway police collision. I'd like to personally say a huge thank you to all of the police officers that support Manningham and for their ongoing selfless efforts, and can we please give them another round of applause? Thank you, councillors. So I move on to item number 6, petitions. Item 6.1, request to cease plans to build a footpath along Unwin Street, Templestowe. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kleinert.
That the petition with 66 signatures requesting council to cease plans to build a footpath along Unwin Street, Templestowe be received and referred through to the relevant officer for consideration and response.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Carly Lang. Councillor Kleinert, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Lang?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other speakers? I will put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's unanimously carried. Thank you. Item number 7, public question time. So we have received a number of questions for tonight's council meeting. Thank you. It's great to have questions at our meetings. Anyone submitting a question to council will have the opportunity to read out their question, or you can choose to have the question read out by our CEO. So our first question is from Simon Consby. Simon, would you like to come to the lectern? And as you do so, I'll just remind you that you have 2 minutes to make an introductory statement before then asking your questions.
Well, thank you very much. My name's Simon Crosby, for the people who haven't met me. I'm here about the Masson Square upgrade and the continuing progress on that. Firstly, I'd like to thank the council and the community for their continuing support to design a safe, accessible and practical upgrade for the Masson Square in Lower Templestowe. As part of the continuing design process, I've been informed that the design phase will start in May 2023. From the pre-design meeting held on the 6th of December 2022, I understood the group present at that meeting would continue on to the design phase. However, if a group member withdrew from the group, then a vacancy would be filled by an existing person who had applied to be part of the pre-design meeting but who was unsuccessful at that stage. So in other words, if someone withdrew from the group that was going to move on, then we'd draw down on the applicants that have already applied at the pre-design. And the whole idea was to make sure that the same group continued through with the design. So my questions are, question 1, why is it necessary to advertise for additional participants for the Macedon Square design phase before contacting all previous unsuccessful applicants from the previous pre-design phase to fill up the four community-based member vacancies? And my second question is, it has been advised to me via email that priority will be given to previously unsuccessful applicants from the pre-design phase. So why do previous unsuccessful applicants have to reapply for the Macedon Square design phase?
Thank you,
Thank
Simon.
you.
Thank you. I'll ask Rochelle Quattrocchi, Director City Services, to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Simon, for the question. The intention of the Macedon Square Engagement Co-Design Workshop that was held on the 6th of December, together with the Macedon Square Concept Design Planned Group, which is the next phase of this project, is to provide an opportunity for a variety of views to be heard, so local traders, community members are represented through the discussion. We have approached participants from the Macedon Square Engagement Co-Design Workshop that was held in December. There were 20 people that attended that workshop, which was a mixture of local traders and community members. Out of that 20, not everyone has responded that they wish to continue through the process. Therefore, we have gone back out through an expression of interest process, but in the first instance have actually approached the people that attended the 2 Reconnect sessions last year to provide them with the opportunity, and also more broadly to the community, because we are aware there's some community members that didn't actually attend those 2 Connect sessions. So that's the process that we're undertaking, Simon, through the process. In answering your second question, I think I've covered that in that we have contacted participants that attended the first 2 Reconnect sessions to offer them the opportunity to put forward an application for expression of interest. Thank you.
May I respond? I've got an example here. My mother, who attended both reconnection meetings down at the Uniting Church, hasn't been contacted. We've had no contact previous to any advertisement going out for additional applicants. So we're just wondering what has happened. Why hasn't she been contacted? Because Mother applied for the pre-design. She was at both the meetings at the Uniting Church. She applied for the pre-design. You haven't heard anything about being contacted, and that's why I've raised the questions as a previous applicant. She hasn't been contacted. We followed the process as well as reapplied. So with the reapplication, also want to know whether that's going to be treated as priority as per the email that was sent to me.
Thank you for raising
earlier.
that.
Thank you.
We don't go into discussion after the question and answer according to the governance rules, but we'll absolutely follow up and we'll get you a response back, Simon.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. So our next questions are from Gary Siganek. Gary, would you like to come to the lectern? And again, you have 2 minutes to make an introductory statement before asking your questions.
My suspicion going into this process was correct after these following events took place. I emailed the council last week asking 4 questions about the December 6th meeting, and none of them have been answered. I asked the Mayor to provide us with a summary data from Mosaic, as we have already had an edited revisionist version from the council stating the opposite. So I'm still waiting for that. The summary of the meeting was for all eyes and ears to notice. The roads, the footpaths were to remain the same, and there was not to be an added open space, but that we were only to enhance the existing open space. These were the parameters that were decided on to go forward in good faith, and this is what everyone heard. Your problem now is convincing these people that they are not smart enough to understand what they heard and decided. And this is why Mosaic has been sidelined, and the council is starting again to achieve a different result, and now we have 4 more 3-hour meetings. Is this how you give respect to participants? During the meeting, a person known to council spoke out of turn that I was not to speak. Why would they do this? This was supposed to be a constructive and civil meeting. Lyndall, the facilitator from Mosaic, was gobsmacked when I told her that when this process started 3 years ago, that the traders were never included in the consultation, only residents, and they were paid to attend. Lyndall asked Frank, is this correct? And as I said, she was gobsmacked. It's easier to get rid of Mosaic than to make excuses for ignoring 56C of the Local Government Act. The Macedon Square traders have very little or none at all confidence in the council to run a fair and transparent process. Nobody's picking up what you're putting down, even when you pay them. Frank talks about consensus to achieve. He can't define it when I asked. When we were guaranteed by Deidre and Stephen it would be by majority of traders, what is it? Votes or consensus? I notice everything here is done by voting.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you very much. Questions? Okay. Question 1. Can you explain why the Mosaic lab facilities were sacked from the consultation process? Question 2. Mayor, will you state that you stand by ratepayers and call out any council official who disregards the bylaws and the state laws, knowingly, i.e. knowingly make incorrect statements and enabling people to break the law? So the second one, that'll involve future discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. I'll ask Rochelle Quattrocchi to respond to your first question, and then I will respond to the second question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Gary, for your question. Manningham Council is committed to working with the Macedon Square traders, property owners and community members to develop a new concept plan. The previous concept plan for Macedon Square is now off the table. We are ready to begin developing a new concept plan. Mosaic Lab were engaged to undertake facilitation work for the 2 Macedon Square Reconnect sessions that were held last year, together with the Macedon Engagement co-design workshop that was held on the 6th of December. The scope of work that Mosaic was engaged to undertake was completed at the end of 2022. The development of the new concept plan is the next stage in this process, which will include forming the Macedon Square Concept Plan Group. We've engaged a new facilitator who's familiar with the development of concept design to host the Macedon Square Concept Plan Group sessions to support the development of a new concept plan. The community consulted concept plan to be tabled at the September council meeting for endorsement by the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle. And I'll respond to your second question, Gary. So council officers, councillors and the community are bound by a number of acts and regulations, including the Local Government Act and community local law. Council works in collaboration with ratepayers, businesses and residents to increase awareness of and compliance with relevant laws and standards. Gary, if there are specific incidents that you would like to raise, I would encourage you to provide those details in writing to the council and to myself so they can be properly investigated. Our next questions are from Teresa Weymouth. Teresa, would you like to come to the lectern? And again, Teresa, you have 2 minutes to make an introductory statement before asking your questions.
So my questions pertain to the footpath that was planned for Unwin Street. I suppose most people on the street were disappointed to find out about it from a neighbour who found out about it inadvertently. We feel disappointed that the council didn't tell us it was in the plans. So as you talked about with the petition, we've signed it, and we've just got a couple of questions that we'd like to follow up. So with regards to the proposal to build a footpath, we'd like to understand how the residents will be consulted before a final decision is made, as in which side it goes on, what it's going to look like, how close to the fence, etc. And the second question is with regards to the footpath, could you explain how it complies with the stated objectives of the significant landscape overlay Schedule 2 to retain vegetation that contributes to the landscape character of our street?
Thank you, Teresa. So I'm going to ask again Michelle Quattrocchi, Director City Services, to come back to the microphone.
Poor Michelle.
I know. She has a busy directorate.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Teresa, for your question. Footpaths are important to support the health and wellbeing of people within Manningham. Footpaths also provide a safe path of travel and provide overall amenity to a street. We plan the construction of footpaths, shared paths and trails by identifying the routes and that pedestrians use more often for travel. And in prioritising what footpaths are included in the footpath program and given priority, we consider safety, demand for the path, location to public transport, retail areas, open space, parks, community facilities and services. We're actually not intending to construct a footpath, however, along Unwin Street in this year's footpath program or forward years. If and when we are to consider a footpath, it would be likely to be later in the footpath program, as there are other higher priority projects included within our current program. If a footpath was considered, we would provide design plans to seek comment from residents that would consider feedback, along with things like the location of the footpath, location of driveways, landscaping, vegetation, etc. A letter has been provided to residents within Unwin Street, and I've actually provided a copy of the letter out the front for your reference today. And this letter actually notified residents within the street that a footpath is not actually planned at this point in time, but if and when a footpath is to be planned, that we would contact residents within the street and seek feedback on the design. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. So I do have another question on the footpath in Unwin Street, and I did say that we would only take 2 questions on one topic, but if John Bromley is here, would you like to ask your question, John? So like the others, you have 2 minutes in preamble and then ask your questions, please, John.
Thank you. By way of introduction, I'd just like to give you some of my background, which I think is relevant. We had the Service Awards to people. I have 50 years with the Institution of Engineers as a fellow. I've worked in industry and consulting and planning projects on environmental issues and project development for another service of 25 years as private consultant and on various other projects throughout the world. I only say this not to ring my bell, but just to say that's who I am. And the last 25 years of Service Award was with RMIT as a professor in environmental engineering and geology. And that involved a lot of work on community consultation. So I guess Teresa has already addressed the issues, and I thank you for the response to that, which does, I think, fit comfortably in terms of early consultation with projects has always been a priority. And just then I heard just one thing which concerns me. I'll read this is actually the specific question. And the point is that a design would be put forward to the public, creates a preconception of what the project is. And so the public is then inhibited in giving all the information and knowledge they have. And this is always emphasised in all the environmental projects I've been involved with. And so from a planning point of view, particularly an environmental planning point of view, in terms of the overlay on the area, I think this is fundamental. For instance, it doesn't sit within the densification principle of the need for footpaths. Is there actually a need? To come up with a design before it seems to me a waste of opportunity in a degree. We could look at some terrific ideas. There's beautiful work happening. And I'd like this to be looked at if something is ever going to be funded, that money could be spent really well and put forward to draw all the wonderful care and commitment that people have put into the Unwin Street project, which sits comfortably as a buffer to Westerfolds Park. That's the reason why the original overlay was there. And throughout the 50 times of initially petitioning the government to have Westerfolds Park, it would seem a shame that if a project went ahead with conventional paving, which may not be as appropriate as other alternatives that could be looked at, if there's a need to meet all the needs which I understand are necessary for public safety and movement. There is no densification in that street. It's not allowed.
Thank you, John. I need you to ask your questions now.
So I think that encompasses the speech. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, John. That's noted, thank you. So we're going to move on. Item number 8, admission of urgent business, and there are no items of urgent business. Item number 9, planning permit applications. There are no planning permit applications requiring a decision of council this evening. Item number 10, city planning. There are no city planning reports. Item number 11, connected communities. 11.1, sports facility development plan. Do I have a mover?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Andrew Conlon, thank you. Councillor Stephen Mayne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. So this report is stage 2 of our sports facility development plan. So with stage 1, which was developed in 2020, we laid out the long-term plan for AFL, baseball, cricket, netball and soccer. And in this one, in stage 2, we're laying out the plans and data for archery, badminton, BMX, futsal, mountain biking, pony horse clubs, radio control clubs, skate, table tennis and volleyball. It's an amazing read if you get into the detail of this report. The diversity of the sporting activities in Manningham is quite remarkable. Just to pick up a few points that are in there, just on skateboarding, for instance, we do have the 3 facilities at Swanson Street, Lawford Reserve and in Warrandyte. There's talk about potentially adding one at Zerby's Reserve in East Doncaster. There's strong community interest in park orchards. I had a look at the Swanson Street one this morning. It is a bit Soviet era, so keen for the plans to redevelop that in the next couple of years to proceed. And equally at Lawford Reserve, it's a beautifully well integrated design into the broader reserve. But there's a growing interest, just like with dirt bikes, which is covered off. You know, dirt bikes are often something that councils don't talk about too much because so much of it is not legal. But we are looking to accommodate more BMX and dirt bike riding. There was a phenomenal increase in interest during COVID. Even on things like the micro sports like archery down at Bulleen Park there, the report notes that the archers down there who council fought long and hard to protect from any replacement from a north-east link juggling performance, such as relocating a tennis court or extending a golf course. But the archers have got the 60 members with ambition to get to 300. The aero modelers down there in the same precinct, the report talks about sharing the space with drone clubs, that people flying the drones is an increasingly popular thing, so that's one of the growth areas for that. Probably one of the more interesting things is the horse and pony clubs. Buck Reserve, the Donvale and Templestowe Horse and Pony Club, they've only got 20 members. It's a very, very old and tired facility. So the long-term future of that, adjacent to Mullen Reserve, probably our #1 sporting precinct, is up for discussion with very low utilisation in very old facilities. And on something, say, contrasting volleyball, it talks about we need to provide more capacity. It's full to the brim on a Sunday with Manningham volleyball at Mullen Reserve, but there's a lot more demand, people on waiting lists, and same with badminton at Doncaster Primary School just here. 367 players in Manningham, 223 live here, 144 go elsewhere to satisfy their badminton. We need to build more badminton facilities. So overall, there's lots of great data in this report. I'd like to thank the officers for working it up. It really informs the long-term planning. I'd encourage councillors to put their hands in the air when it comes to supporting budget for some of the expansion and development plans outlined in this report, and look forward to seeing it being rolled out in the years ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. Councillor Conlon?
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Mayne took all the points that I was going to talk about, but it is particularly around mountain biking, which is, it's great to see that we've acknowledged that. I think that's, you know, we've had a number of petitions around that. Obviously, during COVID lockdowns, mountain biking was a natural sport for many teenagers to participate in. And yeah, it's good that we've taken steps to address that. I'd also note there's some really good actions in here about ensuring the future of sports like futsal and table tennis in terms of when we're considering redoing stadiums, and also particularly for table tennis, that idea of advocating for a regional facility within the Eastern Region group. I played table tennis. I think I took my kids to some table tennis games. Had to go all the way to Kilsyth to just for a couple of hours on a Tuesday night, I think, before I was on council, obviously, and because now my Tuesday nights are doing something else. But I guess it is great to see the work the officers have put in terms of gathering the information, and the company that did the report in terms of very detailed report, and I think it'll bode us well in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Do I have any speakers against? Any other speakers for? Councillor Lang?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say and add into stage 1 that it also looked of the sports and facility development plan, that both stages came apart as one of our actions in our Active for Life strategy, and that it was about the provisions of council facilities, making sure that they meet the current and future needs of our community, and that is to look at a variety of sports. And all sports were considered. Like gymnastics will be part of the DISC master plan, and basketball and netball will be considered as part of working with the state associations and council associations that are within those sports. And I also wanted to pick up in the report that joint use agreements were also looked at with our local schools and in our state government, like Parks Victoria areas too. And the recommendations at the end of the report were broken up into your high, medium and low, and that doesn't mean they're not of priority. The high, medium and low talked about the time frames. So high in the next 12 months, medium in 1 to 3 year recommendations, and low into 4-year recommendations. And I just also wanted to point out we do have one council-owned dirt jump facility for our Manningham bike riders, and that is at Wonga Park Reserve, and I'm pleased to report that there is an upgrade of that in the Wonga Park Reserve Master Plan forecast too. And I look forward to all of our Manningham users being able to do recreation in the way that they choose all through Manningham, and that we've looked at the ways that we can provide that now and for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other speakers for? Councillor Chen.
Thank you, Mayor. And I noticed that there are 13 sports identified in the stage 2 summary document, and including table tennis and badminton. And interestingly, the recent community survey about Manningham's most popular sports and recreation activities identified badminton is among the top 4 traditional sports, and table tennis is the second most popular non-traditional sports. Badminton and table tennis are gaining popularity across Manningham. The survey results correspond with the population data contained in the documents. So I'm very pleased to see the recommendations for badminton and table tennis are made. So, and will be actioned wherever possible. So a good things for those people play table tennis and badminton, including Councillor Andrew Collin. He will be very pleased. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Any other speakers for? I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. So move to 11.2, Draft Aquarina Aquatic and Leisure Centre Outdoor Master Plan. Do I have a mover?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. A seconder?
I second the motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carly Lang. Councillor Stephen Mayne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'd just like to stress first that this is a draft Aquarina Aquatic and Leisure Centre Outdoor Master Plan, and we're calling for consultation from the community, and the idea is that the final plan would come to council in somewhere closer to the middle of the year. It's a fairly ambitious program. So the key components in this master plan is, so it's the outdoor pool. It's nothing to do with the indoor pool. That was all done in the 22 million refurb that finished in 2017-18. This does not deal with the shell of the 50-metre outdoor pool, which is the original 1969 shell, but it's everything else outdoors. So, for instance, there's a plan to relocate and improve the cafe to offer increased indoor seating and shade, a new relocated water play, introduction of an amphitheatre to provide events and performances in addition to further shaded space, replacement of the outdoor toddler pool up on the hill there, which no one sees, with a very exciting 25-metre flexible programmable pool. So for those of us who learnt to swim at Aquarina in the 1970s in the learners pool, the old 25-metre learners pool, there will be another 25-metre outdoor pool, but it will be flexible programming. So it could be a disability day, it could be for particular groups, it could be for education, the whole range of things there. Had a look at it this morning. At the moment, the outdoor pool, it's all locked up, there's leaves in it and it's empty. So it really hasn't been used for a long time. And if you want to talk about pools that haven't been used for a long time, this plan proposes putting some raised seating and shade space over the existing dive pool. So if the divers are out there, they need to get their change.org petitions going, because this may be closing dives in terms of the use of that pool. It hasn't really been operating as a dive pool for a long time, and the proposal is to put some raised seating and shaded space over the existing pool, and very exciting in my view, the inclusion of also some tiered seating and shade structure for carnivals. People don't realise that aside from MSAC, Aquarina is probably, and until proven wrong I'm going to say it, the most popular school carnival aquatic facility in Melbourne. And that's because the typical aquatic facility is 40% of the site is covered by the buildings. On our site, it's only about 10%. We are blessed with those hills. I mean, you might not like walking up to the car, into the car park, but the hill where people can watch carnivals from is what drives the bookings of those carnivals. It's a great spot to sit, and the idea is to put some actual seating and make it even better. So I'm really, really excited about that, because there's so many school carnivals and festivals that are held there. So the cost is interesting. I'm going to quote from this. The probable cost estimate supplied by the consultant in May 22 for all components of the draft outdoor plan was 7.4 million, 6.1.2. In allowing for the construction price escalations experienced in the industry post-COVID, the probable project cost as of March 2023 is estimated to be 9 million. With continual increases in construction costs, it's estimated this cost would rise by 24-25, possibly to approximately 13 million. So from 7.4 million to 13 million in 3 years is what is written down here. So that's pretty scary from an inflation point of view when you're funding big capital works. It's an important project. Obviously, I hope we get value for money. Since the opening of Petty's Reserve, this will probably be the next big project, perhaps along with Jumping Creek Road. It's 1 million visitors a year, very successful. It's a jewel in the crown. Unlike Marybeck, which has got 6 aquatic facilities, we've just got the one. And it's open from 5:30 in the morning till 10 at night. Schools come from all over Melbourne, and this will make it even better. So I think it's a great plan. Really looking forward to the community feeding in on the detail, divers, etc. And then we get on and fund it before the end of this council term.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. I too learnt to swim in the 25-metre outdoor pool down at Aquarina, and so did Councillor Kleinert. There you go. We could have all been in the same class. Okay. Councillor Carly Lang, did you want to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do just want to touch on something that Councillor Stephen Mayne said about the 50-metre pool. I just wanted to reassure the public that that is being upgraded. No, it is not part of this master plan, but that is happening as a separate project, and that will be looked at in an upgrade separately. However, it does state in the report that any upgrade that is happening to the 50-metre pool, some of the master plan things could be addressed if endorsed by the public, or if, because it's going out for community consultation, and if supported, could be done in synergy so that we limit any disruptions or need for any restrictions. I just also wanted to state that the report is broken up into short, medium and long-term recommendations, and the aim is really to improve the experience for our community. It very much focuses on having shade, picnic areas, and with that quiet pool, having access for all of our community. We have a high multicultural community, and being able to use pool areas in a very sensitive way is very important. And so I just wanted to say that that quiet pool addresses that for our 40%, lots of multicultural communities, but 40% not born here, as it states in the report from Australia, and therefore the need to address that. It also gave the option of an extra lap pool facility, and it looked at the heating and water reticulation of the 50-metre pool as well. So I just wanted to say that the upgrade, the master plan also is about a contemporary design, but it is also keeping up with industry standards and making our pool a desirable one for all our community and also those out of the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Do I have any speakers against? Any other speakers for? Councillor Laura Mayne.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to talk further in support of this plan, emphasising that Aquarina is a key Manningham resource and it's important we take care of it. It's our only pool and a really key community hub. Not only is it a local joy, though I'm sure people come far and wide from outside of Manningham to enjoy it. The areas I was most excited to see was the cafe, the improved, I guess, I'm going to call it lounging area, or the amphitheatre for people who maybe want to go to the pool but maybe not swim, maybe read a book instead. And the new pool, as our other councillors mentioned, will be good for groups who don't usually swim, really accessible and inclusive, which is very important. Although I am sad to lose the diving pool because I have many fond memories there as a kid. I understand that was potentially, that was over 10 years ago and maybe it's not used as much anymore, and I know it's very expensive to have. But the one thing I wanted to add is I really encourage, considering this is going out for public consultation, I really encourage regular users of the pool to give their input because theirs is very valued. And I know there's a lot of Manningham residents who are regular users. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Laura Mayne. Any other speakers? I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that is unanimously carried. Thank you. Item 12, City Services. 12.1, Draft Strategic Property Acquisition Policy. Do I have a mover? Jeff.
Councillor
Jeff.
I'll move as on the paper. The recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Michelle Kleinert. Thank you. Councillor Goff, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you very much, Mayor. This is, I suppose, a very important piece of council policy here. It's really basically enabling the way forward in what was a property investment portfolio, but it's now expanded that out into other things. I'll talk about that in a moment. So it's really an enabling document and a policy that the office and the CEO can go by in purchasing properties around Manningham. Manningham, we've been purchasing and buying and selling properties since the year dot in Manningham. A lot of the time, we've actually been selling properties over the years because when in the 70s, 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, when subdivisions were made, the subdividers would have to give some open space to the council. And so the worst block of land in a subdivision was always gifted to the council. And so we had a whole lot of gifted properties, which weren't always in a very good location. But over time, we have been purchasing properties according to some policies and plans and strategic plans. Mostly the open space policy, which is a policy that looked at improving our parks, I suppose, and open spaces. And that's where we've got a lot of the lineal parks, and all of the networks within Manningham have extended out of that, which started in around 1980. But we have been buying and selling. This particular piece of policy is really directing how, what, when, where, why we purchase property and how we're going to go about doing it. It is an update to a policy that we actually brought in, I think it was last year, was the first version of it. There are some tweaks and minor changes, but one of the changes is that first one that came in was basically about an investment portfolio to find other methods of earning money for Manningham as well, all right? Whereas this particular policy is also extending the purchase of that into, from what I believe, and I hope I'm right, I'm seeing a frown on the CEO's face, I think I'm going off track. But really, I think what it is saying that we can actually do it for community benefit, so buying the properties that we need for parks or for community services or community buildings that actually the community need, and that's all put into this policy on really an acquisitions policy, and that's what we're putting through tonight, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Michelle Kleiner, would you like to speak? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, it's a very good document. It will pretty much, I say it's a living document that will be come back to council annually, so it stays current. And essentially, the importance of this policy and the reason why we have it is because we are a financially sustained council. And in a rate capping environment where your rates are capped at a certain amount, then divided by, you get your land rate, then it's divided by your numbers of residents, and that's how you get your rate notice. I've probably confused people now more so.
How much we want to raise.
Times how much we want to raise, which is capped by the state government. But as an example, our rate rise might be that 2%, but we all know that other things go up every year. Employment, costs, electricity. There are so many things that we do in every day here, buildings operating, that the cost goes much more than the rate cap. So you get this this divide that gets bigger and bigger, the income and the expenses. So this is really designed to have a very, very good policy that's got governance, that's got criteria, that's got process, it's got probity. It crosses crosses the T's and dots the I's correctly. That allows us to be able to create other forms of income, as well as look after those keeping Manningham beautiful, the open space. There's parcels of money that come in from development in certain areas that get spent into buying properties, so people have beautiful places to walk and enjoy the open space. We are very lucky in Manningham. We have a lot of these little pocket parks, yes, dead blocks, but for some people, as on the weekend, being at a little pocket park that's at a corner of a court in an open street going down, residents from right across in Templestowe met each other for a lovely meal. And there was nothing in that park, it was just an open space, but the importance of that the importance of being sustainable so we can keep doing our services and doing all the core things that council needs to do. This is really, really great. I like that it does come back to us annually, so it stays current as the environment changes in so many things. As we know, in the last few years, local government has changed with just some changes that are put on us by state government, some changes that are environmental for us and for every other municipality. But it's a really good document. I commend the officers that have put it together. It's been a lot of work and it's very good.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have any speakers against? Any other speakers? Do I have any other speakers? Yes, Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Yeah, so I'll be voting in favour of this updated property acquisition policy. I just want to make a few comments though. So I think the history of this goes back to our previous CEO, Warren Wynne, who had a vision for what he called a sovereign fund, where Manningham might invest in this concept of diversifying our revenues. So we're very rates reliant. I think it's roughly 105 million in rates and waste charges out of about 150 of cash that comes in. So we don't have the 90 million of parking revenue like City of Melbourne. 94% residential rate base, so we haven't got the huge industrial base like a Dandenong or the profits from subdivisions like a Casey. So the concept of diversifying our revenues away from rates was okay at the start, and the initial version of the policy was still focused on that key quote, which was the diversifying your income stream. We then, there was some councillor interest in acquisitions for open space, and hence the broadening of the policy effectively tonight, introducing the emphasis on open space in particular. And there's also a strong reference now to community infrastructure. I think down the track, personally, we might want to add a drainage flooding criteria to our broad strategic property acquisitions. At the moment, this policy doesn't authorise drainage or flooding motivated acquisitions. I think that's something that, and I agree with Councillor Kleinert, that the annual review in a sensitive area, an unusual area for council laws to get involved in, is something we could look at down the track. I guess the thing I'm most nervous about is effectively the policy does authorise investments to make money, effectively. So there's a fairly broad authorisation that if you think this property acquisition will diversify our income stream, then we can do it. So that's pretty broad. And I'm not saying that we are going to start buying properties interstate, but the report does not preclude it. It says that they're likely to be in Manningham, but it's not precluded. I personally would like it, when we next tweak the policy, to mandate that any property acquisitions must only be in Manningham. I'm not interested in that sort of commercial investment, buying elsewhere for rental. I think we need to be directing our property investment around open space, community programs, etc. But it was brought to the table by our New South Wales CEO, who came down from North Sydney and was very keen on it. It's still alive, and we've got a strong financial position, close to 100 million cash, so there's a good argument for, particularly when interest rates were zero.
Thank you, Councillor. Time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other speakers to the motion? I will put that to a vote. All those in... There was no one speaking against. You can? Oh, you can. Yep.
Thank you very much. No, listen, I just want to speak on the very fact that this policy, I suppose, has included the others, but the very reference to where the funds come from is outlined in this policy. So if it's going to be for sporting things, it's got to be in our capital works plan, all right? And if it's going to be for open space, it's coming from the open space, and there is an element there is for protection. I don't know that we have ever said or whatever this interstate or into whatever purchasing of property. Is it possible? Maybe. Is it not? But that's not what the direction was, and I don't want a community to be misguided as to the fact that that is our intention to have gone out and done that, because I think that's a bit of a furphy, and it just makes something, a story out of something that isn't a story as far as we're concerned in Manningham about what we're doing with those strategic purchases of land that are important for our community and to build our community in the future, because those blocks of land are in the right spot.
Thank
for
you.
our community.
Thank you, councillor. I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? And thank you, that's carried unanimously. Item number 13, 13.1, State Government Advocacy Update. Do I have a mover? Councillor Laura Mayne.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder?
I second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Carly Lang. Councillor Laura Mayne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We had a big advocacy last year with both our state and federal elections. In regards to our approach, we set a clear agenda with key goals and put in place many measures to advocate for these issues that were both internal by liaising with candidates as well as external by pushing for community awareness. Some of these measures included Mayor and CEO meetings with candidates, social media campaigns, pop-up stalls at activity centres and more. As a reminder, the 12 key projects we advocated for and pushed for funding were, and I'll list them all just so I can cover all our bases, 5 ways intersection improvement, bridges for the Yarra River Corridor concept plan, bus rapid transit along the Doncaster Road corridor, Doncaster Park and Ride design and commitment, better gambling reform, funding towards our Jumping Creek Road upgrade, bus shelter, Manningham bus shelter delivery program, pedestrian and cycle grade separation at Nell Manningham Road, suburban rail loop replica of via bus routes. Matthew Guy supported the Templestowe College sporting facility upgrade, Templestowe Road between the duplication of Templestowe Road and trials of on-demand bus services in Manningham. Sorry for the long list. As a result of our advocacy, we had a commitment from the Federal Liberal Party for 5 ways intersection and interest from the Labor Party. Keith Wallerhan has made an election commitment for up to $10 million and is still raising the issue on our community's behalf. Our biggest community campaign was our push for Headspace in Manningham, which we see as vital for supporting young people and giving them access to mental health resources. I'd really like to thank Jenna Tang for her work in this campaign. She put in great energy and enthusiasm into pushing this important issue and really helped out Manningham, and hopefully us achieving this soon and in the future. Although the election year is over, I want the community to know that we are not taking a backseat on our advocacy approach, and we still aim to keep really close ties with our state and federal members to push our community initiatives. Thank you, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Laura Mayne. Councillor Carly Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. Councillor Laura Mayne did a good job of going through all of those projects, so well done, Councillor Mayne. I just wanted to bring awareness of the 2 community campaign advocacy pieces that were done, the 5 ways intersection and the youth mental health. With the 5 ways intersection, this has 4 of our local roads coming into the one intersection, which is a Warrandyte Ringwood Road, which is the state government. So it was a partnership with our community to advocate to the state government, to the Department of Transport. And from the advocacy campaign, we really did get a number of helpful anecdotals, as well as the information about how people use this intersection, the traffic flows of this intersection, all the near misses, the small, medium and fatal accidents that have been at this intersection, and also the way that the benefit that this upgrade or an improvement to the 5 ways was had. And this all came from the community joining together to sharing all of their anecdotal evidence on this intersection for us to use as part of that advocacy piece. So it really is a joint partnership between council and the community for this advocacy, which we are then pleased to advise, as Councillor Mayne stated, that we did have both Liberal and Labor Party interest, And Keith Wallahan did make an election campaign consequently of 10 million towards raising awareness on the community's behalf and an upgrade. The youth mental health Headspace campaign was extremely successful within Manningham. Just to quote some of the data there, we had 1,000 campaign brochures go out. We had 24,000 impressions via Instagram, and there was a huge community support. Again, the community working with us to advocate for this need and them showing that need through needing close access to youth mental health facilities within our municipality that they can access by bus because they can't travel by train and they are reliant on car. And if they need those services, they don't necessarily want to be reliant on someone to drive them there. So it's very important that those youth mental health facilities and services are here within Manningham, and that's what this advocacy piece was, and also to have some sort of satellite venue that they can attend at ease when needed. So thank you, councillors. I would encourage you to support this advocacy pieces.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Do I have any speakers against? Any other speakers for the motion? Councillor Anna Chen.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to add that we just touched on the internal, the advocacy campaign directly conducted by council. Just to add that the state government advocacy campaign also included council working with external organizations as a council member of the organizations. I'm familiar with public transport, so I just take public transport as an example. Council is a member of ETC, Eastern Transport Coalition, and MTF, Metropolitan Transport Forum. I just list some examples about the external organizations' advocacy, and which as a council rep, we actively involved with those advocacy campaigns. On 20th of September 2022, ETC representatives met with Deputy Premier and the Minister for Transport Infrastructure, Minister Allen. On the 20th of October 2022, ETC briefed Ave Purelli, who is now elected as Victoria Greens MP for North East Metro. On the same day, ETC also briefed Mr. Rob Barton, who was the Transport Matters Party candidate. And I attended those three briefings as a Manningham Council rep and for advocating for better transport for the eastern regions, of course, including Manningham, which is an important part of the eastern region. NTF arranged 8 election town hall meetings in 2022, and I attended the Melbourne Town Hall meeting on 28th of July. And the meetings were attended by Minister Allen, Minister for Public Transport Infrastructure, and also transport spokespersons from the opposition and from the Greens. The three main political parties' candidates were in support of the express route that mirrored the suburban rail loop at that meeting. I have to stress that the advocacy campaign is an ongoing process. Council will continue advocating until our goals are achieved. And I invite our community to join Council to advocate for those 12 projects wherever possible and whenever opportunity arises. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Stephen Mayne, did you want to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. So, yeah, this is a good report. It's sort of there's an acquittal element to this where we probably hadn't gone into advocacy like this with a formal endorsement of a 12-point plan, but with a double election year in 2022, it was a good strategic way to go about it. Historically, we've been underdone in terms of state and federal funding because there's no marginal seats in Manningham. And if you look through our list of 12, it's not, we can't say, and we got 7 of them type thing. So we didn't have any material wins in terms of election commitments by people who then won the election and were going to deliver it. So compare that to, say, City of Dandenong or City of Kingston, who've got $20 million cheques coming from the federal government for their new aquatic facilities. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do this. I think that the one that wasn't on our list that actually I was surprised to see get funded was Matthew Guy promised $102 million to extend the 48 tram from North Balwyn to Doncaster. So we have long supported that. It wasn't on our list and it was promised, but obviously he lost. So therefore, it's not happening. But overall, it would be great to get some state or federal support for Jumping Creek Road. We're talking a $20 million ratepayer commitment to that, biggest ever spend on roads. In the past, we've had, I remember the day Anthony Albanese turned up here in person with a $5 million cheque for MC Squared straight after the GFC. In person, Albo, with his cheque. Love to see that happen again with another cheque for Aquarina or something, but maybe he's a bit busy. So we did get, I think, a couple of million for the $20 million Aquarina investment 7 years ago. We got $1 million or $2 million for Mullumbullen Stadium. There's not a long history. I mean, we've got $5 million coming in for the Templestowe route from the Feds. Kevin Andrews promised at the 2019 election. So that was probably one of our biggest straight cheques written in an election campaign. So we haven't got a great track record because of the lack of marginal seats. Menzies is now 0.7. May not be the forgotten seat anymore now that it's come in from 7% to 0.7. But well done to the officers. It was a good process with the councillors all workshopping what we should go with. It's a good blend of issues and good transparency acquitting it like this after the elections. And I think we're well placed to go forward in future campaigns. We've learned lots of lessons and I think it's been a good process overall. And thank you for the officers and those who ran all those campaigns, which were, I thought, very, very competently executed. We just didn't quite get the electoral lotto fall our way on this occasion.
Thank you, Councillor. I will put that to any other speakers I should ask. I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's unanimous. Thank you. So 13.2. NAB State Council 2023 Cost of Living Motions. Do I have a mover?
Mayor, I'd like to move an alternative motion, which I'll read.
Yes, thank you.
That Council A endorse the following motion to be submitted to the forthcoming MAV State Council meeting. The headline is Utilities Cost of Living Relief, and the motion reads that MAV State Council 1. Notes the significant recent increases in the service charges levied against residents by Victorian gas, electricity and water utilities. 2. Requests the Essential Services Commission review service charges for gas, electricity and water to more reasonably reflect the usage amounts. And 3. Requests the Victorian Government extend the existing $250 power saving bonus program to make available an additional one-off $250, quote, utility service charges rebate for residents and small business operators who apply for relief. And point B, that provide Manningham's MAV delegate with the power to modify the wording of the motion if required, providing the intent remains consistent with Council's endorsed motion.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Councillor Mayne, would you like to speak to the motion, the alternate motion?
Yeah, so I think this is a good cost of living motion, that cost of living is going up. It's not just the usage fees that are going up, but in Victoria, the service charges, where, you know, it doesn't matter how much you use, you've got the service charge has been going up much faster than inflation and really hitting the hip pockets of our residents. It's interesting, I mean, gas and electricity are largely privatised, but water remains state-owned. The Essential Services Commission does have regulatory oversight, and the state government does have a history of offering rebates on energy bills, not necessarily water bills, but energy bills. So we're borrowing from their existing format, the $250, and broadening it to the three main utilities and directing it to the service charge element, where there's been particular increases of late. And we've been contacted by residents concerned about this, and this is in part our advocacy response. So I look forward to taking it to the MAV State Council for support, and then the MAV will hopefully take it up with the state government with the full support of the sector, all 79 councils agreeing that this would be a good Manningham suggestion worth supporting to provide some relief for utility customers.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. Councillor Andrew Conlon, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to thank the Mayor and Councillor Mayne for generating this motion to go to the MAV State Council, and it is an important way that we can advocate on behalf of our residents, particularly our ageing residents who, have had minimal increases to their pension in the midst of significant increases in their service charges, and I think, yeah, it's a great motion, and I hope that our fellow councillors, our fellow councils around the region will support it as well, and we look forward to getting something positive from the Victorian Government at the end of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have any speakers against? Any other speakers for the motion? Councillor Carly Lane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to add that this is for all our Manningham residents, not just those that are on a pension. These are for all those that could be finding with the cost of living and prices like groceries and everything going up, that as it states in the report, a person can cut down their usage but to save money, but the service fees are fixed and beyond their control. And this is because of that, and because our community have raised concerns with that, we are advocating on their behalf and to our state government to review and address this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carly Lane. Councillor Thomas Lightbody.
I think I'll just echo what everyone else says, and I think the second point here, requesting that it's more reasonably reflected in what people use for those services, is really important, because you can encourage people to reduce and save water and reduce electricity usage. We're advocating for community net zero emissions, so people, looking at things like solar panels and all that things, but you can reduce your usage as much as you want, but there's still this big, chunky service charge that's tied to that, no matter how you use, even if potentially you're actually adding more electricity back into the grid, and therefore providing a service, it still comes off as something that you need to pay. So I think it's important in creating an incentive to actually save water and save electricity, in making sure that those service charges are actually related to how much of the service you use. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other speakers for the motion? Or to the motion, I should say. Well, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 14, Chief Executive Officer. 14.1, Appointment of Authorised Officer, Planning and Environment Act 1987. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kleinert.
That the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Conlon. Councillor Kleinert, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Conlon. Any speakers against? I'll put that to a motion. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Item 14.2, informal meetings of councillors. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Thomas Lightbody. Councillor Chen, would you like to speak to the motion? Thank you. Councillor Lightbody. Any speakers against? I'll put that to a motion. All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried unanimously again. Thank you, councillors. 3 documents for sealing. Do I have a mover? Councillor Michelle Kleiner.
That the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you, councillor. Do I have a seconder?
I second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Carly.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Item number 15. We raced through those three items. Too many councillors. Item number 15. Report or raise a question. Councillor Carly Lang.
Thank you. I will just stand to this one. I would just like to let councillors know that a predominant and very long-standing Warrandyte member has passed away this week, Mr Malcolm Smith, and I would like to send our condolences to Joy Dahl, family and friends, and all Warrandytians. Thank you.
Provide my respects to the family. Thank you. Councillor Klein.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As many would know, this is the time that our Iranian community celebrate Nowruz. So it's their New Year's celebration. The Iranian population or the Persian population, actually, Manningham is home to the largest population of Persians in Australia. It sits in Manningham. There's over 20,000 in the whole of Victoria, and there's well over 10% that live in this very area. So it was just wonderful to spend time with them this afternoon with yourself in celebration, which is a very difficult time with what's happening in Iran for many of our residents, the pain that they go through every day. And we, as we're reflecting in the car, just you can forget you know, that we are very lucky where we live in a society that has freedom of speech and democracy, respect amongst many. But it's just wonderful to be able to celebrate and understand their celebrations, and the way that they've done it has been really. It's a beautiful blend of somberness, but also acknowledgement of this special time of year. And I just want to finish with saying it was quite extraordinary. I got time to reflect. They had a lovely young lady sitting beside their arrangement that they have for Nowruz, and she sat there beautifully dressed in flowers, and she just sat there the whole time, and that was to mark and remember Mahsa Amini. And it was very touching, and it was at Parliament, Victorian Parliament. It was just very lovely. So I just want our community to know that we as a council, we don't forget either. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Clannett. Well said. Councillor Chen.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended an information session last night organised by FONDET, Friends of Manningham Dogs and Cats, about the 2 years cat curfew trial. And council officer also attended the session and answered questions. The trial has not started yet, so I urge any cat owners, I nearly say car owners, cat owners who has questions about the trial to contact council for information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any others, councillors? Councillor Conlon?
Yes, thank you. Mayor and a number of other councillors, we went down to the Hiding Museum last week, about a week ago, and it was fantastic to hear from Uncle Bill there as we launched our Reconciliation Action Plan. And it was, I thought it was a fantastic day, and it was great to hear the stories of the Wurundjeri people, a bit of their history, a bit of how they see themselves, what they're doing now in terms of looking after their country, in terms of the Narrap Ranges that they've got there, having a non-Wurundjeri instrument being played was fantastic, which was the didgeridoo, and that was a really special time. And probably the highlight was the dancers, that were down there, the Wurundjik Thank you. There's a dance troupe down there, and they shared some traditional dances, and got us all involved in dancing. And even the CEO was dancing, I'm told. So,
I could almost call a point of order there. I'm not sure if he did, Councillor.
But anyway, it was a great day, and I would like to thank Heidi, the Heidi management, for hosting that day, and it was a very special time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. It was a beautiful, beautiful morning. Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to report back. I attended the season launch of the Yarra Junior Football League on Sunday morning at Swinburne with about 100 community members. So many of the club presidents, club committee members were there. Mr. Goodwin, the Melbourne Football Club coach, was the guest speaker. And then they went into a very impressive all-day training day where there were sessions for child safety, mental health, and good old-fashioned football coaching skills for the various coaching directors, presidents, and committee members. There were some interesting discussions afterwards. I had a chat to the new CEO, Aaron Bailey, and the new president, Rob Gould, who was a long-term president at Hawthorn Citizens Football Club. It's worth remembering that the Yarra Junior Footy League is the biggest junior footy league in Australia, with about 10,000 members, and Manningham is probably their most important council constituent because 6 of the 7 junior clubs in Manningham play in the YJFL. That's Warrandyte, Templestowe, Doncaster, Park Orchards, Beverly Hills and Bulleen Templestowe. Only Donvale plays elsewhere. And the comments they made afterwards that they're loving all the new lights that are being rolled out in Manningham. Zerbies have got them, Rysheks is getting them, Tedajani is getting them. And they made the comment that there's such good lighting facility now in Manningham, and councillors, I remind you that we amended the budget last year on budget night and put an extra $750,000 in the budget for lighting, that they're so impressed with the lighting capacity in Manningham, they're looking at launching a Friday night under lights. And in Boroondara, it's very dark. The residents do too much lighting, don't flood us over. So Boroondara gets dark at 5 o'clock on a winter's night. Manningham, the lights come on, people stay fit, and the biggest junior footy club is looking at basing a Friday night under lights based on the excellent facilities that we have paid for and are now delivering. So I think it's a good story. We should roll out more lighting, and I wish everyone the best of luck for the round 1 on April the 23rd. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other reports, Councillor Lightbody?
Yes, thank you. So since our last meeting, we've also had our famous Warrandyte Festival, all run by volunteers. And unfortunately, the Saturday was cancelled due to a fire risk, along with a couple other events like the Park Orchards Market. But Sunday was amazing, and I'd really like to thank the volunteers for their professionalism and their ability to adapt this festival for safety and for the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lightbody, and I would also like to congratulate the Warrandyte Festival Committee for pulling off such an amazing day on Sunday. Any other reports, Councillor? Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I suppose what I'm getting up to talk about is an emerging issue that I see around Manningham, and it's getting worse. Basically, it's a transport issue of road capacities, and it's mainly to do with travelling across Manningham and within Manningham is good, but people are travelling now around Manningham. Now, the freeway takes care of part of it. Doncaster Road can cope pretty well. But if you go to the non-urban side and through Templestowe, the route through along the Yarra, we've only got 2 bridges across there. I'm just saying that last week I had to drive out to Healesville and I left at about 3:30. Well, can I say that getting into Warrandyte at 3:30 was a line going back to, I suppose, the goldfields and beyond that. The line was going back. Once I got through Warrandyte up to the bridge, it was okay, driving out the other way. But driving into Warrandyte, there were a lot of traffic. But coming back at 6 o'clock, it was banked back to the Shell service station travelling stop-start, and then all the way to Warrandyte High School, which is a number of kilometres. Now, once I got through, I actually got through and I was travelling, but the bank up of traffic coming into Warrandyte was back to the high school. This is a real problem because that volume of traffic can't be done. Because twice as I was driving back, I was nearly hit by cars travelling on the wrong side of the road, trying to get into their road, and they were sick of waiting the hour or more to get through Warrandyte. Believe me, it's more than an hour. So, Madam Mayor, I was just wondering if we could actually put some monitor traffic volume between the hours of 3:30 or 3 and 6:30 or 6 out there, because it's not just there, it's back in further too. So we've got a real issue.
Thank you,
It's an
Councillor.
emerging
You're
issue.
over time, but it's a very important issue, and I'll ask Rochelle Quattrocchi to note that, to provide some further information. I do want to provide just an update myself, and I would love to thank Templestowe Rotary for an amazing event at Finn's Family Festival. I think the other councillors wanted to speak about it as well, so they all enjoyed it, where we had, I think it was 5,000 to 6,000 people, and I think the numbers were actually unexpected, and the festival had a lot of people there. I want to congratulate Rotary Group and say, you know, it's been a long time for them to be able to put this on after COVID, and last year in November we were underwater in Finn's Reserve. It just shows you the resilience of our community group. So thank you to Rotary and also to the Mental Health Foundation for the Mental Health Walk that I very proudly opened, and my daughter and I managed to get 5 kilometres around Finn's Reserve with Anna Chen, Councillor Anna Chen as well. So congratulations to Templestowe Rotary and all the Rotary clubs that joined in and supported that very important event. Okay, councillors, we are going to move to item number 17. Confidential reports. Do I have a mover? Councillor Conlon.
Thank you. I'd like to move that the council close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 66(1) and 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider the following items. Item 17.1, Strategic Property Portfolio Update. Item 17.2, Manningham Open Space Strategy Implementation, and item 17.3, Chief Executive Officer Employment Matters.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thomas Lightbody. All those in favour? And that is carried. So we will now close this meeting to members of the public and in the live stream to consider these confidential items. Thank you very much for joining us in person this